Let's move on to our next ticker of the day. We are watching Boeing shares holding on to gains just slightly, with the stock up just around 0.9%. Now, this move comes on the heels of a Wall Street Journal report, which raises the possibility that birds may have been involved in the Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX crash. Aikiko Fujita is digging into this. And Aikiko, why is the market interpreting this as good news? Because as I read it, I was going through this Wall Street Journal report. It was very interesting. But to me, the same problem still exists, and it all comes down to the sensor issue.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It is a bit surprising to see some of the shift in sentiment that we've seen in the Boeing stock, at least in today's session, because you rightly point out, when you look at this Wall Street Journal report, it doesn't absolve Boeing of any responsibility, and it doesn't shift the blame away from these faulty sensors that reportedly triggered the flight control system known as MCAS. It does, though, suggest that there may have been other environmental factors that may have contributed to that Ethiopian Airlines crash back in March. Now, the journal reports that U.S. aviation officials are increasingly looking at the likelihood of one or more bird strikes as the most likely factor that led to the plane's sensor sending faulty data that led to the crash of that 737 MAX jet. And the report takes it a step further, saying that Boeing executive Mike Sinnett raised this very possibility back in November when he was meeting with American Airlines pilots just 4 weeks after that Lion Air crash in Indonesia. Now, the journal says that Boeing executive eventually dismissed this possibility as a risk, saying that the planes were not on the planes in operation because he thought that experienced pilots who followed the proper procedures could respond to any repeat of an equipment malfunction. And he said that this would amount to nothing more than a nuisance for these pilots because they would essentially have to fly back to where they departed from. Now, Boeing did not confirm or deny this report today, telling Yahoo Finance, "We are continuing to support the ongoing investigations." But a person familiar with the interim crash report for Ethiopian Airlines says the data in this report is consistent with a bird strike, or could be consistent with a bird strike, but that has not been confirmed yet. Officials over in Ethiopia have disputed these findings and say their preliminary report in the investigation found that, quote, there was no evidence of foreign object damage.
Aikiko, is there any idea on the timing of the next steps or when we could see the 737 MAX back up in the air?
Yeah, we did get an update last week because, as you know, Boeing has been working very closely with FAA to update the software, create these software fixes to their MCAS system. They have completed that. They're scheduling a recertification flight with the FAA. So that's the next step to look for before any of these planes can be in operation. But as we've been speaking to a lot of these airlines, we're not looking at any time sooner than the summer travel season.
All right, Aikiko, we'll check in with you in a little bit. Thanks so much.